What I wanted to see was what kind of guidance, administrative guidance, we were getting about these distance learning plan problems. And there were 5 decisions. The 2 that were about those issues we've already talked about on the show. So I read the rest of the decisions, and based on stuff that came up in those decisions, I'm just going to hit you guys with a whole bunch of stuff that I think is germane. Okay, one is we end up in situations where parents don't understand the purpose of the triennial evaluation, and they don't get a good triennial evaluation. And the law changed about, I don't know, 5 or 7 years ago, and now parents can waive the triennial evaluation. You should never, ever, 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 in my opinion, waive your triennial evaluation. Because if you do that, and then later you decide you need an evaluation at district expense, you won't have one to attack. But there was a triennial evaluation in one of the cases that I was reading, and I thought, well, let me just talk to the parents about what is this triennial evaluation? Well, you know that when you first, sorry, I don't know, I've got to turn my phone off, I guess, because it, can you hear me, Shannon, or no? Yeah, sorry.
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that, you guys. I have to kill my phone. I figured out how to kill my phone. Okay, so you have your initial evaluation at age 3. Theoretically, that's the soonest you could have IDEA services. And then there's another evaluation 3 years later, and parents might be like, God, I'm so burnt out on all this. I'm stressed. I don't really want to put my kid through another evaluation. So I wanted you to just understand where the triennial evaluation fits into the general framework. So let me just read you a little bit about the triennial evaluation. It's different than the annual evaluation, because the annual evaluation is just like a progress assessment, essentially. And it doesn't require a reassessment, although you can ask for a reassessment anytime you feel like you need one. But the triennial evaluation is going to revisit the question of whether the student is still eligible for special education and related services. And you could either view that as like, well, that's, crappy. They're going to try to take away my eligibility. I think the other way of looking at it would be, no, we want to make sure that if your child doesn't qualify anymore, that we sort of are not saddling him with a bunch of obligations that might not be educationally relevant. So, as I said, the annual doesn't require an assessment, but the triennial does. So
Can I just ask a question, Bonnie, in your experience? Because I know a lot of people who have had a hard time getting an IEP to begin with.
Yeah.
But once people have an IEP, I don't know a single parent where the school was like pressuring them to get rid of the IEP. In fact, I know parents who said, I'd like to let the IEP go, and that they've said, no, you still qualify. In your experience, though, as an attorney, have you once I see that it's really hard to get into the groove and get your services started, but once services start, I don't see schools understanding that a child could get to the point where they no longer need services. What about from your point of view?
LA Unified, for kids that had intensive ABA, started targeting those kids if they were high functioning. And I've done a case, and I know there are more, where they said that the autism had no educational impact, and they tried to make the student ineligible.
Okay. All right.
Parents can't be afraid to consent to the reevaluation, like, oh, they're going to take away my eligibility and my services. That is right. It's true, Shannon. It's pretty unlikely. It does happen. It's certainly not our biggest,
Okay.
Okay, so the purpose of the triennial evaluation is twofold: to verify that the student continues to have a disability potentially affecting their opportunity to access the general curriculum, and to identify the student's current educational needs, including the appropriate educational placement and any services needed to support the student's access to the curriculum. So that is the requirement, unless you waive in writing your right to a triennial evaluation. So I wanted to mention that to you. Also, sort of interestingly and strangely, generally, if you're in your 12th grade year and you're about to graduate, right, with a high school diploma, even if your tri or your annual falls during that time period, they don't do a reevaluation because they figure you're gone by June. So if you want, a reevaluation and you're going to graduate from high school with a high school diploma in the next little bit, if you want the kid to be or the student to be reevaluated, you're going to need to ask them to do that and kind of talk them into the whys of that. Does that make sense? Okay.
Totally.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.